Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Didi Jordan. She is your certified alcohol-free life coach, here to guide you on a transformational journey back home to who you truly are. As a certified mindset, success, and embodiment and transformation coach, she's passionate about supporting you to discover and step into your full potential without the distractions of social drinking and hangovers holding you back. And she's also the host of the podcast, Sober Chapters. Welcome to the show, Didi. It's really great to have you here with us.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we were talking a little bit about sobriety, and I told you I have some things to share with you too, because I've been really looking forward to having this conversation. I think what's going on around sobriety in general is really exciting, and it's helping the whole world just kind of raise the global frequency. How do you feel about that?
Yes, that is a great way to put it. It is a really, really exciting time to be sober curious, or to be dabbling into the world of sobriety, because there is a huge shift, a huge movement. I don't think there's any coincidence that it's in line with, a huge shift in consciousness in general. And I think a lot of people are waking up to just the incredibly powerful benefits of living an alcohol-free life. And as I've shared with you before we came on here, it's for me, the driving force behind it really was wanting to connect more and more deeply with my spirituality and with my true self. And I have a whole journey. I'm sure bits will come up during this podcast, but yeah, it is. There's a huge link there. I see it a lot where people are going through, perhaps some kind of spiritual awakening, getting spiritually curious, and it always seems to lead them down a path of sober curiosity as well. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I think it's a very beautiful thing. And I love what you're doing in terms of chapters, because the idea of, going along, and we're really trained that alcohol is perfectly normal. You can't wait to turn 21 so you can drink in this country. I don't know what it's like in Australia. I think it's like 17 or 18 over there.
18. Yeah, 18.
Which is, I used to think that it was 18 in Hawaii when I turned 18. And it didn't do me any favors by allowing me to drink publicly. I mean, it just, the whole culture around alcohol and excusing the bad behavior that alcohol generally produces in people, it's just not like, I really, from this viewpoint, it's like, I don't really understand how that ever got to be a thing. It was just like,
I know, right? And I think the more that you step away from it and you look back, it's like, oh wow, okay, that was pretty wild. Like I was very much, to give you a bit of a background, I was very much like a party girl. I'm English. I live in Australia, but I was born in the UK. And born into like a pretty boozy family, but like, you know, didn't really seem to be a real concern. But I look back now and I think, wow, yeah, like I was, you know, I was drinking in my early teenage years a lot because it was just socially acceptable. It's what all my friends did. It seemed the norm, right? And
Mhm.
I'm the youngest of four sisters, and they're all quite older than me. And I think that I saw alcohol as this way of like fitting in the family, and it was really exciting, and like I loved it. And I took on the role of the party girl really well. Like I was a good big drinker, if that makes sense, which I now know wasn't so great because I
Yeah,
drank
but
a lot. I drank a lot, and I didn't think it presented too much of a problem, but I look back now and I'm like, wow, it was keeping me stuck in patterns that I didn't even consciously know about at all. And you know, I always say I feel like I was kind of asleep all the way through my teens and my 20s with the knowledge that I have now. And look, I wouldn't change a thing because I think as we all say, like we're all on our own unique journeys, aren't we? And I say that with sobriety too. And thank you for recognizing the chapter thing, because the whole concept of the chapter is that it is that softer approach to sobriety. You know, there's a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily struggling with a serious alcohol use disorder, but they also know that alcohol is holding them back and preventing them from reaching their full potential, but they don't want to give up forever. And that's where the chapter comes in. It's like, well, why don't you try a chapter, remove it from your life for a certain period of time, and create that space to really go in and discover who you truly are without it, what truly lights your soul up. And that's where the real work and the real transformation begins. And that's what I've seen over and over in my clients. And as I said earlier, it's a beautiful thing. And it really brings people back to this really empowered place of knowing who they really are, what they truly want, unpacking all of this conditioning and patterns that they've potentially been stuck in, because it gives you that opportunity to step back and see what's been going on. It like lifts the veil, essentially. So yeah, I went on a bit of a tangent, but I'm passionate about it.
I'm with you. It's such a big deal, and it's there used to be a commercial on television many years ago. It might have been in like the 80s, I think, where they were talking about smoking and they were trying to get people to quit smoking. And it was a little cartoon character. He would go up the mountain, and it was all about stopping smoking. So he'd go up the mountain and then he'd slide back down because, he was weak and terrible. And the commercial, the point of the commercial was you didn't start in one day and you don't have to stop in one day. There's gonna be fits and starts usually with people, and just being sober curious is enough. Just embrace it for a couple days. Maybe it's 3 days. Maybe it's only one day, and one day's enough for you. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We're moving into a world where you can try stuff. You don't have to be fully committed to, okay, this is it for the rest of my life. It can be, this is it for today. This is the decision I'm making for today. And then tomorrow, celebrate that you made it all day. That was something. And then the next time you try it, maybe it's 2 days, and celebrate it. You made it 2 days. And then, as you go on, uh, it may or may not. And, maybe that it's for some people, it doesn't really bother them, or they don't really want that experience right now. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I do believe that when you get the nudge or, you know, the soul's whisper or whatever it might be in terms of that curiosity around sobriety, I have seen it over and over again where it is leading to there's like a higher reason for it. You know, it's like your higher self is nudging you that way for a reason. And if you don't have it, like that's absolutely fine, you know. And I always say again, like with it being a softer approach, like so many of my friends still drink, my family still drink. Like I am fortunate that I still enjoy being around it to a degree, obviously. But I think that, yeah, it's if you don't have, if it isn't presenting problems and you don't have that nudge, well, then each to their own. But I think that when like you know deep down when it's holding you back, you know deep down when it's no longer serving you. And, again, to touch on my own situation, things changed in my life when I reached my early 30s, and the path that I was on, which I thought was kind of like my forever path. And I had like a really serious relationship and had a great career, and I'd moved to Australia and was meant to be living the Australian dream. And I was 32, and everything fell apart within 6 months of being here. So my partner left. The career that had brought me out here, the company, they pulled out of Australia, and the rug had been pulled from underneath me. And I now know, it was essentially my rock bottom and also the making of me. I've realized that now, but at the time I felt horrific. And what actually happened was that when I drank alcohol, the next day my hangovers were just so terrible. I would beat myself up. I had all this fear, like fear of aging, fear of being single, fear of starting again. And like the alcohol, even just a few wines would exacerbate those feelings of feeling behind. And like I say, feeling so full of fear. And I now know it was all fueling those fear-based patterns, my ego, all of that, and taking me away from my soul, essentially. And that's when I then went on my kind of like, like personal and spiritual transformation happened from that low place, which, as we know, is kind of the way it works, right? And now I'm really grateful for all of it. But that's the thing. I think if you know that alcohol and hangovers are having a detrimental effect on you, then yeah, explore life without it. Because when you listen to that nudge,
Anxiety.
yeah,
Anxiety is huge in society right now, and a lot of that is driven by low magnesium, and which comes from alcohol. It sucks the magnesium out of your body, and you start having heart palpitations and panic attacks and all kinds of really odd things that you wouldn't normally think, well, it's just because I'm drinking so much alcohol, but it is really because you're drinking alcohol at all. It's a poison. It's poisoning you.
it's huge. And also, so I didn't give up for necessarily health reasons at the time. I now know it was linked to mental health, right?
Mhm.
But what I have learned since from doing what I've done over the last couple of years is the gigantic impact that it has within our brain, and all of the reasons why that anxiety is happening. So one drink alone, you'll have one drink and it will increase, those beautiful euphoric kind of like relaxing hormones, I suppose, like the increase in dopamine and just that GABA, and just that's what that euphoria is when people have that first drink. But because your brain is always working so hard to regulate the brain hormones, like it has to work really hard on any given day, let alone when you start throwing alcohol in the mix. So if you do that and you increase those relaxing hormones, it spikes an artificial surge of all of the stress hormones to counteract that and to try and balance that within your brain. So, cortisol and dynorphin and, glutamate, those horrible, nasty ones, that's what you then, when the GABA slows down and you're left with this artificial surge, that's where people wake up with what I call anxiety in the middle of the night, especially
Yes.
depending on how many of those drinks you've had. And you've just got this rush of stress hormones, all through your body. So that also, it's interesting what you said about the magnesium. I'll definitely look into that, because I knew that magnesium was really important for us, but there's also that added thing of what it's doing to our brain chemicals as well. So yeah, it's huge. It's really huge.
When I finally just embrace sobriety, I don't even consider it, giving up anything. I just embraced something different. It's a different lifestyle that I've chosen for myself. And, I still have people in my family who consume alcohol, and um, it's kind of nice. One of my sons, he's having a sober January, and my husband, in solidarity, decided that he was going to too. My husband is kind of we used to tease him about he was going to get really hammered and have two Zimas, because Zima is it's a beer like drink that I don't even think it was 3.2 alcohol. The man really doesn't drink all that much, but it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. But he's been retired, and he's been having problems sleeping, and it's like, you might just try not drinking alcohol. You might find that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it really does show up quickly in your ability to sleep better, just not consuming alcohol.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just, yeah, one of the many, many benefits. It and it just has such a knock-on effect then, and it just seeps into every area of your life, like for me now, gosh, what am I, 2.5 years alcohol free. I never intended to do that long. But it did just get too good, and now the thought of a hangover does give me the shudders, to be honest.
Yeah, the thought of not being able to sleep all
Yeah,
night really well,
yeah.
that is just like, it's a no-brainer for me. It was like, I'm tired of being tired all the time. And I
Mm,
knew that if I just didn't drink, because I'd gone I'd gone 30 days or 40 days, and then I just, slide back into old patterns. But you really need to change some of your habits around the times when you're drinking. I think helps people when they're trying to embrace sobriety, so that they're not so tempted to um, fall back into those patterns. And that's really
yeah,
a lot of what drinking is. It's just
yeah,
having, this is the time when we normally have a glass of wine or four or five, before you try to go to sleep for the night. And yeah, you'll fall asleep. It's really just passing out. You're becoming unconscious. And then you're going to wake up because all those other hormones are going to kick in. And then the real fun begins. It's like,
yeah. And gosh, as you're talking, I'm thinking of so many things that I could, share about it, and to share in terms of being able to navigate those, I guess, rituals, as I suppose you could call them, that people fall into. But I think the biggest thing is being able to really sit with and connect with yourself on a deep level, and really having those mindfulness tools and practices. And when you tap into those and you become comfortable doing that, it's kind of like short-term pain, long-term gain, because it just it enhances everything, and it makes it really easy in the end to be able to not choose to have that drink, and to have maybe like an alcohol-free alternative, or go for a walk, or plan some other rituals that don't involve drinking. And yes, it takes a bit of courage, and it takes stepping outside your comfort zone, but the rewards are immeasurable. And when you kind of get into the flow of doing that, like the way that the world opens up to you, and like the other kind of like aligned opportunities, and the different types of people that you attract in. Because like, even if you talk about it from like a manifestation point of view, like alcohol lowers our vibration. That's a scientific fact, that it lowers our vibration, on a cellular level. And when you remove it, like, you are just operating at such a higher frequency, and with that comes in much more kind of, like I say, aligned opportunities, aligned connections. And I think when you give yourself that taste, and you break through those kind of rituals and traditions that you would normally do, and really go, right, I'm going to try and do something a bit different, like, you start to have like this compound effect starts to have, and you get that taste for it, and it does get kind of too good in the end. And some people may then go back to it for a bit, but I think once you've created that space and you've really experienced the benefits, I don't think you can unfeel that. I don't think you can unsee that. And I think that's where that sober curiosity link goes in. And I was sober curious for years. It took me a very long time of taking breaks to finally say goodbye to it, because our ego doesn't want to give it up. It doesn't. It wants to stay doing the same thing, over and over again.
It's tied to so many different points in our lives that it's like, I too grew up in a family that, they drank a lot. They weren't sloppy drunks, but they got drunk every night. I mean, and it was just that was normal. The first time I went to a party and no one was drinking, I remember it really vividly because it was so odd to me. I went to a Thanksgiving dinner at somebody's house who was they were Christians, and they just didn't drink. And I was just like, I had never experienced that. I was 35.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
To get to that point in your life and never have experienced an alcohol-free event, it's kind of weird. That's how it was for me. I just, like, there was always alcohol around. And so I didn't really have even any role models that were like, they're not drinking, so I'm not drinking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's huge, isn't it? It's huge conditioning, like you say, from like a really, really young age.
Mhm.
And the norm. So you kind of just roll with it until you start to question things a little bit differently, I guess. And like I said right at the beginning, I think there is just so much awareness around it now, and a real movement, and a huge amount is going on. I think I saw something this morning to do with America, where they're trying to pop on the warning labels now, the health labels, onto the drinks. They've actually just passed that law in Ireland already.
Mhm.
I think it's by the end of 2026. All drinks it's compulsory that they'll have the health warning labels around breast cancer and various other facts around actually the statistics of alcohol.
I wish they would do that with soda pop too, though. Because I mean,
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah,
drinks are just like,
full of
they're designed to kill you. I hate to be so blunt, but it's really
yeah,
not.
yeah. That's a lot, isn't there? I mean, there's probably a
Energy
huge.
drinks, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's why when I just decided to embrace sobriety, it was like, there are so many other healthy alternatives, and I like water. We pay for a good filtration system, and we have really good water at our house.
Hey all, I'm Jill Hart. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there was a way to have legal insurance, just like your health or auto insurance? Well, Legal Shield has leveled that playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters, from traffic tickets to real estate issues or even trust matters. Help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 435-764-0875 and use the code JILLLEGAL or start your journey to legal protection today.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even
You
like
don't going
Pellegrino.
Yeah. On that, actually, what I found really useful, which might be useful for your listeners who are, maybe super curious and want to try it, is I'm a great believer that if you have a really lovely glass, like a really nice fancy glass, wherever you go. And my thing was, I always wanted to kind of like fit in and have like that drink still in my hand. And I did throw myself into socializing from the beginning. I think because I'd already taken a few breaks. So it was kind of like, right, I'm just going to do this. And what I did, because I didn't want to have loads of sugar and loads of those mocktails, I started asking for a sparkling water in a wine glass with ice and lemon. And I do that everywhere, literally everywhere I go, because they're always going to have it. I genuinely now, I believe I have completely rewired my neural pathways to the point where taking a sip of that in the wine glass almost feels like it used to, when I'd have those like after work drinks or whatever. And that might sound crazy to people, but I promise you, because
To me.
it is, well, of course, because you would know, yeah, of course. And that's why I say it's short-term pain, long-term gain, because people don't realize that that time will ever come. They think they're always going to miss out on that alcohol beverage. But like when you push through that and you get to the other side, it's the biggest gift you could ever give to yourself for the rest of your life.
And you get to a point, I don't know, maybe it's because we both were sober curious, and we did it a few times. Like, I gave up drinking. I was pregnant 5 times. So there were 5 years of my life I didn't drink, but I was pregnant and there was a reason for it. But I always went back, and I would quit for a month or two and then I'd go back. But then I had this experience with the hawk on the day that I decided was going to be the day that I was going to embrace sobriety. That was the day. It was September 7th, 2023. So I'm outside, fiddling with the water next to my house underneath this overhang. And I feel something messing with my hair. My hair is up and I can feel something, like, I'm thinking it's wasps, because I was right next to the water, and they used to like to come around and build their nests and stuff. So I reach up and I brush them away, and I hit something really solid. And I'm like, I'm really confused at this point. I stand up and I turn around, and my husband's pointing at this hawk sitting on the fence line. He said it was messing with your hair. Hawks have really sharp talons. And to be that close to the house and underneath something and not scratch my head, but he let me know he was there. There was no other reason for him to be there other than to send me the message that this is it.
Yeah.
You got it. And I have I've never felt the desire to have another alcoholic drink after that.
That's
Just
so
like,
interesting. That's so interesting. Yeah. I love that symbolism for you. And I do believe, yeah, like I said earlier, there's a link, right? And it happened over and over again I see it in my clients. I've had it in my own journey. And I suppose my spiritual journey has just advanced so much since I gave it up, because I was actually guided to remove alcohol, so kind of similar sort of thing. But what was happening was, every time I took a break, kind of in my, I guess, like around that time that I mentioned, where I was like, I had a bit of a rock bottom and I was like really digging deep, I was feeling deeply unhappy, I actually went to a Tony Robbins event in 2018, and I was open, but I didn't really know much about spirituality then. And he talked about it. And I thought, oh gosh, okay, this must be a thing. And my sister was quite spiritual. And I started getting curious. And I also was really trying to take breaks from alcohol, because I was trying to avoid those horrible hangovers at all costs. And I did this walking challenge with work not long after that. And I was listening to Gabby Bernstein, The Universe Has Your Back, and really starting to realize this other way of thinking and choosing to see things through the lens of love rather than the lens of fear, and feeling really good. And I was taking breaks from alcohol at the same time. And I started seeing the number, typical, but the number 69, right?
mhm.
It became so prevalent in my life. And I was seeing it everywhere, like every time I took a break. And I noticed that when I went back to drinking, it wasn't happening. And it was always happening much more. And I felt much more connected when I was taking the break. And a few things happened. I've got so many stories that it would take a long time, but one particular one was with the 69 thing. Like, you can say, oh well, it's a coincidence, because I was seeing it on like number plates, and I was seeing it on I don't know, just signs and everything, everywhere. But then it got crazy where it was being given to me. There was no coincidence. And again, like I say, it was when I was doing sobriety. And I went to this alcohol-free drinks night. I wanted to try and make some new friends, and I went on my own. And I walked in, and like they gave me a ticket, and I went into the room, and I just felt really low. I felt like alone, a bit sad, like missed my friends. My friends weren't on the same path as me. And I just felt a bit of darkness come over me, and I was going to leave. And I remember looking down at the ticket, and it was the number 69, and I got goosebumps all through my body. And it was like, the universe God, your higher self, whatever you believe in, is screaming at you to go down this path. And I knew it. I just knew it. And honestly, the things that have happened since I did go all in on my sober chapter, I'm actually writing a book at the moment about it. And it's just been like one spiritual confirmation after another, after another. And I've now deepened my connection. I'm not religious, but I have deepened my connection to God. And it's just been this like beautiful, beautiful journey. And yeah, I can see you nodding. I'm sure you resonate with so
I
much of it.
totally do. It's like, it's kind of magical in some ways when you just become this new person.
Mhm.
When you open the path to just living in the world without
Mhm.
having to have it like faded for you.
The mask, right? The mask, like we hide behind the masks. And
Mhm.
another big part of my message is that alcohol fuels the ego, like alcohol fuels our false self, and sobriety aligns us with who we truly are and our higher self. And it keeps us in our heart more in that love-based state. And yes, fear comes in. We're humans, ego mind still goes wild, but we have so much more awareness when we are alcohol free to be able to go, right, no, that's the ego, that's not the truth, that's our false self, that's fear. Let's bring ourselves back to, you know, our hearts, back to love, and having that awareness is the power, right? And yeah, it's
And we learn all these tools, breathing and tapping and just being aware. And when you're sober, it comes to you really quickly when, because we do all become afraid from time to time, or we're anxious or we're worried about stuff. But it's just the clarity of knowing, oh, hey, if I spend 5 minutes going like this, as silly as it sounds, I'm going to feel better. Or if I, do box breathing for, 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to fall asleep because it just works like that. It's like,
yeah.
it's just being able to be more connected to yourself as well as to other people. It's just such a gift. And when you start sharing about it, like I shared on social media that I made it 480, I think it was 83 days or something like that. I was just doing the math because I'd seen other people sharing about it.
Yeah.
And I started my journey on a specific day, and I termed it to myself as embracing sobriety rather than giving up alcohol. Um, and I still term it that way because it feels like I'm moving towards something instead of denying myself something. So, um, so I started it, and then a friend of mine on the anniversary, I posted about it, and a friend of mine decided that she was gonna just take a break. She was going to embrace sobriety for a little while. And she's on 117 days now, which was just like, it feels so good when you realize that when you share about it, not only does it allow other people to help kind of, encourage you, and you need to let other people encourage you in some of the things that you're doing that are really spectacular things.
Yeah.
Um, it also helps them because it kind of gives them permission to be, well, they did it. They're not a lot different than me. Maybe I can try it. And whether they go all in and it lasts for a really long time for them, or it just is, a few days. It's it's just the exercise in sharing and having that
Mhm.
ripple effect, that the information's going out and helping other people experience something that's really pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gorgeous. And congratulations on your 400, and I can't remember the specifics, but that's a
I
yeah,
think it's like 480,
that's
84,
amazing. Amazing.
85, something like that. I'm not all that great at doing the maths, but
And great for you for sharing it and feeling that way about, yeah, exactly that. The ripple effect. The ripple effect is huge. It's huge. It is. It's a whole it is helping to, raise consciousness for sure, like raise vibration, like absolutely. And people are cottoning onto it. And Yeah, sharing it. I mean, that's been like, for me, that's been a whole journey in itself for me, because I actually used to be, I have faced so many fears since giving up, and I've had the courage to keep facing those fears. I couldn't, I think it was about just over a year ago, I went on my first podcast, and afterwards I was having to lie in bed in the fetal position. My nervous system was absolutely shot. And then only a few months later, I had my own podcast. And, my fears of being seen and showing up on social media and public speaking and all of that, I was petrified of all of that, because unknowingly I'd been using alcohol to mask insecurities and mask confidence. And it's like, when I was a little girl, I actually used to do a lot of public speaking and poetry reciting and things like that. And then I lost that true confidence, found this kind of like false confidence. And then I've like now almost come back again. This is like what I say, like people come back to who they were when they were little. Um, so, and it has been so rewarding to share it, because like what you felt with your friend, like, when you know you've had that impact and people have resonated, and then they go on to reap the benefits of it. It's so rewarding, and it's so good to be able to shift that mindset for people, because there is still a bit of a stigma out there that, I think there's even a bit of a belief, isn't there? My dad used to say, I don't trust people that don't drink. It's ridiculous. And then, but actually now it's become this power move, and people are being really empowered by it, and that is just fantastic. Yeah.
I think it's so fantastic too. It's just, and it's not like, the old days when people were stopping smoking and they were kind of nasty with each other about it. If you're the circles that you were in, those people were still smoking. It Smoking is kind of worse in that it smells bad. And when you quit smoking, you really notice how bad it smells and how much effect it can have on you. But alcohol is just like, I don't care if you drink. I have alcohol in the house. I, my husband, he didn't embrace sobriety with me, and I didn't ask him to. Sometimes he chooses not to drink for a while so that he sleeps better, but it's between them and their conscience. It's not my job to tell people what they're supposed to do. And I think being sober has allowed me the ability to be able to just let people be. I can just be me, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And they can be them, and I can still love them. It doesn't matter.
That's beautiful. And that's a really important point that you just brought up there, because I see it with my clients a lot of the time when their partners still drink, and they, sometimes that can be a challenge. But what you just said then is absolutely the best way to go about it, because everyone's on their own journey with it, right? And all you can do is, send love to those people for where they're at. And more often than not, I see it where the partner sees the benefits and then really they get curious in themselves. But the person that's removing it has to do that on their own path without any expectation or attachment to what their partner's going to do. And, hold that loosely. And then, a lot of the time they do follow suit. But, it doesn't matter if not, you're doing it for you, right? You're doing it for your own.
Yeah.
Your own conscience, like you said, your own path. So that's really cool. Yeah, that's really good.
I love that. And you were talking about the 69, and I know that you have 69 tips, tricks, and resources
Yeah,
you share with people. I thought that was so
right.
cool.
Yeah, it's a big part of my story. That number 69. Although I've since learned it's a lot about like the yin and yang and the masculine and feminine and things like that, as well as just the other type of meaning, which but yeah,
I'm a Pisces, so that
yeah.
I totally embrace that.
Yeah. And yeah, I have the tips and tricks and resources for anyone that is curious and wants to sort of dabble in the world of sobriety. So it's a free guide that's also, I think it's linked to my Instagram, which is sober_chapters. And then it's on my website as well. Yeah.
And your website's soberchapters.com. And you have a community. That's how you mainly do your coaching, is through the community. So let's talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah, thank you. So it all kind of started with Instagram. So I have a beautiful community on there that links through, and I offer, I do the one-on-one coaching, which is kind of like personalized to wherever people are at with their journey. And then I also have a group coaching program, which is really beautiful. And it's called Sober Chapters 100. And we all get together every week. It runs over like 14 weeks, but it's not just about being alcohol free or going alcohol free. A lot of people are at different stages. Some people have been alcohol free for a long time, but it's actually kind of like a coaching program that complements, being able to go deeper with that inner work alongside, having that space and having no distraction from drinking and hangovers. So there's a kind of whole range of modules in there around kind of the mind, body, heart, and soul, incorporating all the different modalities that I'm trained in. So a lot of like embodiment practices, even manifestation and spiritual type work in there as well. And it's just a really beautiful container that I run throughout the year. We're just starting one actually on the 12th of Jan. So that'll run for 100 days. And then the community is just growing. I have so many ideas for what I want to do. There's retreats and things like that are in the running as well. So watch this space.
You had something on your site for Belize?
For Ibiza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounded really fun.
Oh my goodness. So like the backstory is that I spent my 40th birthday in Ibiza alcohol free, which is a notorious party island, but it's actually got a really beautiful spiritual side that not many people know about so much. And I wanted to go. It was actually my 40th birthday was meant to be the end of my sober chapter. I had said I was going to give up until I was 40, but I actually decided to stay alcohol free because it had gotten so good. But I went there to mark that anniversary and just had the most beautiful time. And when I was there, I got a lot of signs and a lot of guidance. I actually even went to a nightclub one night and a girl came from out of nowhere over to me and said, "Oh my goodness, it's you from Sober Chapters." And I was like, what? I don't have a crazy following. I have a few thousand, but I was there from Australia for one weekend, and this girl was from London, and she said she'd seen my content. She was going to do a sober chapter for a year. And I was so emotional because I was like, this is literally God's confirmation that I am living in my purpose. This is my calling. And it's happened on the last weekend of my chapter. So of course I'm not going to go back, but with that, I then felt this really strong connection to Ibiza. And I want people to be able to experience the highs of those kind of places, but from like a natural point of view, and feel like the magic of the island, be amongst like-minded souls. And so we've just got a wait list up for when the next one's going to be. Like, I'm hoping it will be this year now. But yeah, there's all the info about everything that I offer is on the website. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's such a great story about, you get these confirmations when you're sober. You can see them. I think the universe is always sending us messages, but we muddle our minds and we miss them. And it's just like, I wish I'd started sooner.
Oh, yeah. I know, right?
Missed out on so much.
I know. And I always have to say to myself, no, you're on your own unique divine timing, and I wouldn't have all this wisdom and all of these experiences of the wilder days. And
you're not as relatable if you've always been sober, or if you were sober because you had to be, or everybody has a different story for how they got to where they're at. And your story is uniquely yours, and it's a message for a certain group of people. And I'm so glad that you came here and shared it with me, because I really have enjoyed chatting with you, Didi.
I have too. I'm so grateful that I, even just finding you that day the way I did, like I just, and when you said you were sober as well, I thought, well, yeah, that's just another confirmation, right? It's been beautiful chatting with you, Jill. Thank you very much.
So what's the one thing you hope the audience takes away from this conversation today?
I just want people who are resonating with anything that we've said today to have that confidence to dabble and trial and lean into whatever curiosity or whatever nudge that they're feeling. And, as you said, there's no pressure. It doesn't have to be for like any specific amount of time, but just to give themselves that gift of trialing it. And to just really spark that curiosity in people, and for people to just go for it. And just see what happens, because it really does and can lead to beautiful things.
I love that. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.